welcome to Center of Weirdness, the weird podcast about very weird stuff. But honestly, it's just us talking about weird episodes of TV shows. I'm Josh, and with me, as always, is Skinner. Hey, Skinner.
Hey, Josh. Hey, all you dogs out there.
Should we should rebrand our give ourselves like a fun name, like this show, like Tequila and Bonetti. We gotta
Yes, we'll just steal their names.
Yeah. So that's right. We are covering
Of course, that's right. The show that we were clearly obviously covering that everyone has heard of.
Tequila and Bonetti. So we have a little bit of weird history with this show because a long time ago, many years ago, if you've been listening to us for a while in our various sort of podcast adventures, we did a show called PredictoCast that's still available in this feed. You can kind of go back. There's actually some connections in this episode back to some old PredictoCast episodes. But we did that show for a while. It was a lot of fun. We kind of got a little we sort of felt like we had exhausted some things. We wanted to try something different. So we started covering TV shows. We started out with Erie, Indiana, and we were like, all right, let's branch out into some other shows. Let's kind of expand our worldview and let's see what other weird TV shows are out there that we can talk about. And very early on, we stumbled upon this show, Tequila and Bonetti, a 13-episode TV series from 1992. And we were like, we've got to do this because all we knew was that it starred Jack Scalia, who was in a couple of movies that we covered in the PredictoCast days. So he was in Fear City with Billy D. Williams. Great, fun.
Yay, good movie.
Really, it's... Your mileage may vary depending on what you can tolerate in your films, but it's a wild, really fun, crazy movie directed by, what is his name?
John Fear.
Directed by Abel Ferreira. So really great, sleazy New York movie. It's got a great killer in it. Super funny, kind of wild stuff going on in it. Not funny, but funny in that, like, this was in a movie, that kind of funny. And then Jack Scalia was also the bad guy in Skinner's favorite movie that we covered during the PredictoCast days, Everybody Loves Mel.
God damn that.
About a turtle that can fly and also talk, apparently.
No, it shouldn't.
So we covered that movie twice. So definitely go back and check that out. If you want to hear Skinner just be completely agitated by a film, really funny. But so we saw, okay, Jack Scalia, he's a cop. He's a New York cop that gets sent to LA, and he's got a dog partner, very cute dog. And I expected that the dog would be Bonetti because, it's Bone. It's got Bone in the title. But no, the dog is Tequila. And so we were like...
Build. Top of the marquee.
Yeah, top build. That's pretty fun. Like, so we were like, all right, cool. We gotta watch this because it looks goofy. It's a dog and a cop show in the early 90s. Like, there's got to be some goofy stuff going on in there.
And we have some history with dogs.
Yes, exactly. We also had a dog podcast where we covered dog movies. In fact, I would be open to reviving Hot Diggity Dog just to cover the rest of Tequila and Bonetti on that feed. That's
we'll
quite
negotiate
an
this because I do want to see another episode of this because we'll get into it. I have some curiosity about this entire series.
So anyway, that's all we knew was that it's Jack Scalia. He's got a dog partner. He's a New York cop who comes to LA. We should watch this. We should try to find it. Couldn't find it. We could find the opening credits, which looked really goofy, and we were like, okay, this is kind of fun. I don't remember one of the big key things, so I'm very interested to talk about this element that is all over this episode. But like, I didn't know much else about it, and then I happened to do we were going to record. I was like, what should we do? I looked back at our list of potential shows. And I saw, Tequila and Bonetti. Let me just do another quick search. Maybe it's available now. And someone, this glorious human being, has uploaded all episodes but one onto YouTube. So everything is there. If you search for Tequila and Bonetti, you will find a episode list. It's got 12 of the 13 episodes there. And I was like, oh my God, amazing. And then I started reading into it a little bit more. And not only is it about a New York cop who goes to Los Angeles and has a dog partner, but that dog partner, you can hear his thoughts, and they are, for lack of a better term, street jive. That is what one review calls it. And then it turns out that the reason that he is sent to LA from New York is because he shot and killed a 12-year-old.
Which will be a major part of this episode, and also has maybe the most confusing flip on the head as far as like, here's a duality of our two main human characters where they have the opposite problem.
So we're talking about this show. We watched the very first episode because we wanted to get a sense of how it started. Like, this was the first, aside from maybe a pilot that was shown to the network, whatever, that maybe explained some things. This is the first episode that people saw, as far as we know, and it's something. So the first episode aired on January 17th, 1992. It aired on a Friday, which was
Born
at the
to
time,
die.
yes, which at the time was a dead zone. Any show that premiered or moved to a Friday night time slot in the early to mid 90s, that was a show that probably wouldn't last very long.
Like most, if your internet is early internet, like, you will remember Firefly being moved to Friday and clearly being ready to be canceled, and everyone being upset.
Yeah.
Because as soon as it was on Friday, it was as good as dead.
Yeah, it was one of those things that, like, if a show premiered on a Monday night or like a Tuesday, you're like, okay, the network has confidence in this show. They want people to see it because they know those are the nights when people are home, when they're going to be, around the television after dinner. Like, this is when we can launch something that we have confidence will grab the attention and will be important. And when they put a show on Friday, that meant, we don't think this is going to go very well, and we're gonna put it here and see what happens and burn off what we have.
Not that we've gotten less social, we have, but there's more human beings, so I'm sure people will still go out. I think really how we consume media has changed how this kind of works.
Oh, for
Friday,
sure.
Friday, still not a great night for TV. But
no.
Everything was based around movies back then.
Yes.
The most important night of TV was Thursday, because you want your highest rated TV shows on Thursday night, because then you would have the ads for the movies coming out on Friday on Thursday. And Friday would be dead on TV because everyone would be out at the movies that have debuted on Friday. And there was no midnight showings that technically somehow lapped into Wednesday.
Yeah.
Like, debuting on Friday meant your first airing was after everyone went to work on Friday.
Yeah, it was maybe a Friday afternoon screening,
Maybe, but
Yeah.
4 p.m. Friday, that's when it really opened. But that is why Must See TV and all that stuff was on Thursday, because you're trying to push the movie the next day, last second eyeballs.
I will say that there was some counter program, because we already covered a show that was in a block of programming that was made for Friday, TGIF on ABC, for kids, so that their parents could go out to the movies and the kids could stay home and watch the more family-oriented shows for them and laugh at the dumb comedy. So Family Matters and Full House and all of that stuff, which was family-oriented, but kids could watch it and feel like they were doing stuff. And if you didn't go to
babysitter TV show.
Yeah, there you go. So your parents were out at the movies seeing, I don't know, Basic Instinct or something in 92.
Probably Michael Douglas fucking someone.
Yeah, Michael Douglas ruining his life for some pussy.
But it's that isn't how things kind of work now because when movies are on and streaming and nothing fucking matters at all anymore. But like,
Yeah.
I along with that, like I saw like someone complain. This is really off topic for Tequila and Bonetti. I'm sorry,
No,
but like
no.
I saw someone online complaining like, hey, there's for the last few weeks there's been no fucking kid movie out there, and I have kids and I want to take them to a goddamn movie. Uh, you would go long periods of time with no movie in the theater for kids.
Yeah. No, and
Like,
but also, I mean, if we're gonna kind of go down this road, like movies stuck around for much longer too. You could have a movie
much
that
longer.
was in theaters for like 12 weeks and it would be there for a while. And nowadays, not
Yeah, more
really.
screens, but like they're all showing Top Gun too.
Yes, or whatever the new Marvel movie is, or whatever. Like the superhero movies.
Argyle. Everyone loves Argyle. Argyle costs a lot of money because everyone wanted to see it.
But anyway, so Tequila and Bonetti. Basically, the story is that Bonetti, Nico Bonetti,
Nico Bonetti.
Nick, but they call him Nico. He's a cop from New York who shot a 12-year-old girl, killed her. So it's one thing, like I didn't realize that he killed her. I knew that he shot her, and then watching the credits, you see a newspaper, like we're looking at Freddy's Nightmares, where they're telling the story in newspaper clippings. And
speaking of Mariska Hargitay,
yeah, and so then we find out that he killed this girl, and that they ruled it an accident. But I guess as a result of all of the negative publicity on the department, they sent him to Los Angeles.
Because of it was all the liberal media wouldn't let him be a cop in New York.
Yeah,
anymore.
he complains about the New York knee-jerk liberals, and that's the reason that he can't be.
This is literally the
cop.
most realistic thing in the entire show. Is a cop who thinks he should. It is no like acting like it's no big deal that he killed somebody, an innocent person, and that the media is making a big deal of it. Like this is Eric Adams' favorite show.
Well,
also,
I
it's
think
stupid and crazy like he is.
It's him. I think it's him posturing, obviously, a little bit. Like
Well, I mean, he deep cries later about.
Yes, this clearly impacted him in a very negative way. But it's also very funny that like this is the setup for the show. Whereas now, if you kill someone, you just go on like paid administrative leave, and then you come back quietly like 6 weeks later, and people find out like, hey, this guy who killed this kid, they're back on the force now. And you're like, what? When did that happen? I don't know. It just did.
And like he had to go to LA because like I don't know, because of that's what you did is you went to in TV shows and movies. If you had trouble in your own precinct city, you would just go to LA to be a cop there instead. That was just a thing.
Yeah. We should say that this show was created. This episode was written, and I believe directed by Donald Belisario. This dude had a huge impact on television. Wrote and created Quantum Leap, created Magnum PI, wrote for Battlestar Galactica, created NCIS, like
created Airwolf,
created Jag. This dude is. We should do an Airwolf for sure.
Well, you have to do Airwolf. I mean, it's a helicopter show.
Yeah, like it's this guy has had like he's got his fingerprints on television, like
which
history.
Makes this like, and he wrote like going back, he wrote for Kojak, but which makes this so bizarre to me.
Yeah,
from the like we're gonna talk about more than the plot. The tonal problems with this show. Yeah. And it starts in the opening credit song. Like from the very beginning, it literally is like black and white. He shoots this kid, newspaper spinning. He's murdered a child, a 12-year-old girl, hugging her dead body. Record scratch, bright colored paper style things.
Yeah.
Like pink and like the happiest rest of the credits you've ever seen. And you're like, what does this show want to be? And I can't, this had to be the worst like development because there's no way this was what anybody's idea for this show was supposed to be.
It's
That's
very
why
funny.
I'm so curious about seeing a later episode.
Yes.
If they figure, like, I know it got canceled, but at some point in the creative process of actually making the show, if they figured out what the fuck they're doing, because this is a show that doesn't know what the fuck it's doing. I've never seen anything like this.
No, I think I think that it must have been so a couple of different things, because in the credits, which you mentioned are insane, they also they give Tequila a credit as the dog,
Which you were like begging for.
I was like, oh my God, I hope they give him I was hoping for an introducing Tequila as the dog, but it just says Tequila. We also starring Mariska Hargitay,
Very early on.
very early on in her career. Very funny, joke in The Love Guru.
That's exceedingly accomplished actor, and that's unfortunately,
I mean,
and like in a movie that nobody saw.
as of like what's according to IMDb, she has played Olivia Benson for 545 episodes of Law and Order Special Victims Unit. So that doesn't necessarily count across other things that she's done, other Law and Order appearances as that character. So a couple more on there, but like she's also a staple on television, and has been for quite some time,
ever since Falcon's Crest, and of course Freddy's Nightmare.
Did we didn't do that episode with her, did we?
Not yet. We haven't done an episode.
We should definitely
yet.
We should definitely do an episode of with her. I got to see what episode that is, but like
it is episode Freddy's Tricks and Treats, so it seems like a Halloween episode.
Why did we not do that for Halloween?
Because there's so many episodes of that show that sound great.
Oh man, yeah, that is a show that we will definitely revisit. I really want to watch that episode now that I know it's a Halloween episode and that she is in it.
I want to stress, and I'm more curious once again for the later episode of this. She is a great actor, has just anchored TV single-handedly for 2 decades plus. They've given her nothing here. She is just the girl.
Yeah.
And he treats her like shit. And I get it. That's supposed to be like her eventually teaching him that she shouldn't be treated like shit.
Yeah.
But this is an unlikable main character.
Oh yeah, he is bad from the beginning.
He needed something. Like, I don't know, like, is something lost in translation from time? I was, already a teenager at this point. I lived and remember that time period. He would have been grating back then too. Unless maybe you're from fucking Boston or New York, or you're Eric Adams. Or maybe you're watching this show and you're thinking it's a fucking sketch from 30 Rock. It's like this is the level of this show. It seems like a sketch from 30 Rock.
It does, especially when we get to the dog's voice. So also starring in this show are Charles Rocket as the captain, Midian Knight.
Captain Midnight.
He does not like being called Captain Midnight for whatever reason, which is, I guess that's because he's also a superhero named Captain Midnight, and he doesn't want people to correlate those things together because that is a superhero name.
What an odd, that's a
Malibu Comics character that Marvel Comics didn't buy when they bought Nightman. They were like, all right, we got one that guy already. We don't need two.
It's such there's multiple Nightmanish things in this episode, but like that's such a Nightman name. But also what a quirky name, but that's from a guy whose last name is Rocket.
Yeah, Charles Rocket, good performer. His bit in this show is kind of fun, which is that because he is in LA and because LA is very sort of flippant.
It's La La Land.
It's La La Land
19 times.
Yeah, as Bonetti is sure to remind us constantly. But basically, Captain Knight essentially wants to be a script writer. Like, he wants to write scripts for movies because everything that keeps coming up, he's like, that would make a good script. That would make a good movie. Like, he's very invested in that, which is kind of fun. Also, it's funny that it's Charles Rocket and he's this police captain and also has not removed his earring that he has and
He's
dresses
wearing a
very
pink suit.
flashy. Yeah, very, very flashy attire.
It is very odd to see this, like, even wimpier than Pac Blue New York precinct, LA precinct, in a world where, you know, LA is a lot tougher than most cities on the planet,
Yeah,
and had
this
a very, very, very bad police issue during the 90s.
yes. Yeah, this premiered in January of 92. The Rodney King beating was 91. So
What
like
were they
March of
thinking?
91. So not that far
Bonetti
before
would
that.
want the beating to happen. He's upset. He's the inciting incident. Like, he came in and it's like, you guys can't let them get away with it. Like, what do you mean they?
The
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, the verdict was April 92, so a few months after this show was
Oh,
on the
Jesus.
air.
Like, it's
When and
so
they were talking about
bad.
how like kind of lackadaisical the police in La La Land were, even though it seemed like they were probably more like it looked like they were more on like the Santa Monica side, very very much Pac Blue, which we also have covered on this podcast. But
A
um,
better show.
yeah, a more fun show, at least the episode that we covered. And then we have as the voice of Tequila, uh, Brad Sanders. He's not like a huge actor, but he's been in some things. He's played
Continues
like
to be into things.
bit parts. Oh, did he pass away?
No, he's still
Oh,
alive.
I was about to say. Oh no, I missed
He was
that.
on he was on episode of the remake of the Wonder Years.
Oh, that's right.
But
He's on the Wonder Years reboot as one episode.
which
But
I always forget existed. I'm surprised like Donald P. Belsario has nothing to do with.
yeah, same. Like he's bit parts in a lot of stuff that you may have seen or at least have heard of. So, he's a working actor. He's been out there, but like I I don't know. I'm glad. I will just say, as we discussed while we were watching, I am glad that it is a black actor doing this voice, because they are very much leaning into the stereotype of a street smart black guy. It's such a strange thing. And this is, I think, what we were kind of talking about earlier, where we don't know if the dog was supposed to have talked at first, or if this was a thing that they added after shooting the first episode and then decided to go back and like add it to the rest.
There are things that will make you think both. I mean, there are scenes where clearly the camera lingers on him, which would be really awkward if it wasn't talking, but also that could have been changed in post very easily. There are points where the dog talks over people, ADR wise, where they didn't give space for the dog to say anything. So at the very least, I think the dog is saying more, or like most of and none of what the dog says is important to what the humans are doing. So the humans are having this really shitty episode of a procedural that doesn't work, that makes no sense, and they're having all these talks and learning about each other and introducing the characters. The dog is just talking about how it wants to fuck poodles and it loves burritos and it needs a brewski. That's all it says almost the entire episode, and it says it constantly. It says poodle about 19 times per second. It says brewskis so many times. He eats, he farts, he burps. Like, it's very hooch, but it's also like, because it is so unnecessary until the end, where really, like, the dog does solve the mystery in so much as the mystery is actually solved.
Yeah,
but in a way that it could also have kind of been done if the dog didn't speak.
It could have. I'm kind of curious, like, because we thought, oh, maybe they went back and added all this in post. And I think what happened, I honestly feel like they at first, but see, then what is the hook of the show? Like, if
The
it's
show
just a guy who goes to
He speaks Italian.
Is it just that he goes to LA and is a fish out of water and gets a dog as a partner? Is that the hook? And then they were like, we need something a little bit extra, so we're going to put in a guy doing a voiceover of a dog, and that's going to be the thing? Like,
I would say my best guess would be that the dog was supposed to speak, but when they were filming it, they hadn't decided how the dog was going to speak and what its lines were.
I think that makes sense. I think I would agree with that because it can't be that they didn't know, because there is a later episode that we looked at where a woman can hear Tequila's thoughts and thinks that it's her dead husband. So
you have to explain, like, this isn't a world where every dog has a narrator voice, because another dog talks to Tequila at one point, and it's Odie talking to Garfield.
Yes, it's very much just head motions and whimpers.
It whimpered. It has this terrible ADR whimper. They did not want to pay anyone from Scooby-Doo on this one. But, like, I don't know, man. Like, it maybe this was a cobbled together from a pilot, but man, it fucking sucks.
Yeah,
like, this is a Frankenstein of a show. Like,
yes.
That's why, like, once again, I want to see what this is, because every scene is bad and does not help anything. And they sent, like, I understand in your opening episode of this show, it's more important to establish who Nico is, less so Angela and everyone else and the dog, than whatever the mystery is. It is so stupid how they, like, what the mystery is, how it is solved, and how unimportant it was, and how this, like, what would be considered a major plot point for the character is just gone by the end of the episode.
I love that we get we have joked about the fact that the very last episode that we ever do for this show will be a Who's the Boss, but you have an Italian Goomba with an Angela on this show.
I know. He doesn't once call her Angela. You know, you got, for some reason, you've cast West Texas's own Terry Funk, a legendary wrestler who, rest in peace, just died a few months ago.
Yeah.
One of the greatest of all time, as a LA cop who has to talk like this.
Also seems kind of dumb.
Like, one of the best talkers in wrestling history. One of the best person for putting asses in seats that has ever lived. And he can't talk like himself in this episode. Like, he doesn't sound like he sounds in Roadhouse, because in Roadhouse, he's in West Texas, so he sounds like himself.
It's weird, because he has, like, there's a lot of charisma for him in Roadhouse. Like, he's a very charismatic guy, and obviously he was a very charismatic wrestler. But, like, this one, he just seems kind of dumb.
Yeah, he talks slow and doesn't close his mouth all. Like, I'm like, why did you like, I can understand, like, coming off of Roadhouse or something, like, oh, let's get Terry Funk in here for something or whatever, but, like, not this role.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's
he doesn't even punch anybody or call anyone egg sucking dog.
That would be. I hope that maybe we'll have to do some research to determine what other episode we cover of this show, because maybe we can find one where Sergeant Nuzo gets to do something cool.
Other than talk slowly at a few old ladies.
Yeah, when that old lady says, like, I'll tell your mother if you give me a ticket. You know my mother? Like, he's like Dauber from Coach.
You know who's really great? Dauber from Coach. No one talks about him anymore.
So, yeah, because he just went over to start doing the exact same thing as Patrick on SpongeBob.
It's true. One character is more iconic than the other, and it's Dauber from Coach.
Yeah, that's right. So let's kind of walk through the central mystery of this episode. So we get the opening.
How was this made?
Yes, we get. Yeah, that's the central mystery. So we get the opening bit of the episode is Nick Bonetti sitting on the freeway stuck in traffic, pissed off because it's such a standstill. Hey, we all get these jokes. LA traffic sucks. We all know it.
He's got his pink Cadillac,
Yeah, he has a big pink Cadillac.
as all New
And
Yorkers do,
that's right. New Yorkers love pink Cadillacs.
because you can drive everywhere in that city.
That's also what's very funny is that he has this big, giant pink Cadillac that he loves more than he says he loves it more than most women, or he's closer to it than most women. And he's coming to LA, which is the peak of car culture, the epitome of car culture, and he's mad about it.
And don't worry, there's caricatures behind him.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. He spots on the side of the street a fender bender between a woman and a man, and the guy is being very friendly about it. He ended up bumping into this woman, and she's like, "You're being so nice. You're making it hard for me to be mad at you." And
That's not how this works.
yeah, and they decide, he's like, "Well, let me make it up to you by maybe buying you dinner or something." And she's like, "Oh, okay." And so they go off the side of the road behind Nick as he's watching this love connection be made. There is another guy who is yelling at him, and who's angry, and he's mad because Nick won't drive up now that there's a gap, and it's a whole thing. The guy drives off, ends up flipping him off across the way, and this is when we get our first of like Nick's very Italian, very, very Italian phrasing.
And also, we could see the license plate for the woman who was bumped into, which is Rich Dish.
Oh yes,
That's
Rich
what he
Dish.
calls her. And he immediately goes, "Those two are gonna go home to Beza Boom Ba Bang," and like he will never say sex. He says everything but, except for one time, and like the girl shrieks when he says it. The dog says sex a couple times, I think.
Yeah,
But like he keeps saying he ba bing ba bang ba boomed her, and like he acts this entire episode. He acts like, and this is what actually happens. And it's once again, the mystery is not important, and they do not care about it. But he acts like it is a thing for a person to bang into attractive women's cars to go home with them after having a flirty insurance exchange and then go fuck her.
well, I mean, apparently it worked for this guy because he's done it
Multiple
several times. Lester.
But like, yes, and but he acts like in New York this all happens all the time. I'm like, no, it doesn't. That's not how things work. Also, having Rich Dish as your license plate is just asking for someone to kill you. But
So
then what is the name of this episode?
the name of the episode is Street Dogs.
Which is funny because he pulls into the precinct parking lot where the dog is narrating a lot of this right now.
Yes.
We don't know that a dog is narrating it, but since we knew the dog talked, we knew it was the dog.
Yeah.
Explaining Nick.
Yes.
Great. The dog is laying on the pavement in this parking lot. He's coming with his car. Across the screen, in basically Comic Sans, it suddenly says Street Dogs, which made me wish the entire show was
just
called
Street
Dogs.
Dogs. Yeah, that would be pretty good. Also, it kind of doesn't really make any sense. Like, it doesn't really fit the thing. Like, I mean, I guess they sort of solve the crime because he talks to a dog on the street and knows where to go.
He runs on the street. They follow him on the streets for like 19 straight hours, which makes zero sense.
Yeah, I guess that's true. So like
maybe the two of them together are street dogs.
Yeah, that's
no,
what
they're
it is.
not.
So he pulls into the parking lot and basically runs over this dog who's sleeping in the parking spot. And Tequila comes out and like pees on his car as revenge. And we find out that Bonetti basically drove 37 hours from New York to LA. He had to stop in Chicago because that's where his mom lives, and get some food. But it's also kind of like, why didn't they just transfer you to Chicago? Like you have that's pretty far away from New York, and you have a family there. That would make things easier. But no, they put him in LA. And this is when we get the breakdown of what happened. So he says that he shot and killed a 12-year-old. This is when he's talking to Captain Midian
Midnight.
Knight. What a name. And he says the board ruled it a righteous shooting. And they don't get into the scenario that caused this shooting to happen, right? Like, we didn't miss that.
No, they didn't. I mean, we see a lot of flashbacks to it, but that's about it. Like, they don't explain, like, I thought when they had the heart to heart at the diner where they bring up the most ridiculous symmetry I've ever seen in my life, that he would explain, because he starts to talk about the effects of what would happen, which is also the dumbest shit I've ever heard. But he never explains, other than it was righteous.
Yeah.
Like, it would have taken 3 seconds to say that a perp pulled her in front of him at the last second.
Yeah, or that he like mistakenly. I mean,
he thought it was an acorn.
We are in a period in 2024 where the last, so many years we have really been putting a lot of emphasis and focus on police killings and like whether or not those things are justified or whether they should have happened in the first place. Like there's a lot of focus and scrutiny on those things, as there should be. Cops should not just be able to allowed to kill with impunity, and there should be.
Maybe this kid didn't pay a parking ticket. And because of that, she's a criminal, and because of that, it is now a death penalty crime.
I mean, I'm laughing about that, but it's horrible, and it's also probably Minnesota, justified.
You know what? I want to like. Here's the thing: like, if somehow you're actually listening to this, and you're like all 7 people listen to us, and you're a thin blue line person, I'm dealing with near my hometown where some cops that were shot during a domestic dispute, and the media is using it like, see, cop killers. It's like, no, that's not what that is.
No,
they got shot in a crossfire of a domestic dispute, and you're using my state and cities as a culture war.
Yeah,
because you want to really distract from the fact that they killed people in cold blood, and you never need to do that because none of these crimes are death penalty crimes.
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing. That is what you're doing. And that's what he's done to this child.
I mean, yes, that is true.
That tone shift I just did is what this episode is.
Yes. This is it's a weird thing where they are trying to mix, they're trying to mix comedy, but also like drama or like pathos.
Like, he's supposed to be like, he's covering up his pain with whatever.
Yes.
Being a dick. Like, we should explain, he's in the precinct. He's an asshole to everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone in LA is stupid. They don't know how to be cops.
Yeah.
They're all worthless. He's better than everyone. He's given the dog as a partner, and he says he doesn't want the dog as a partner. Not because some kind of weird logic where dogs shouldn't be police officers.
There's nothing in the rule book about it, though.
There's nothing in the rule book about that. And there's canine officers in New York City. They like pizzas instead of burritos. Still like brewskis and blah blah blah. And he doesn't want to be partners with this dog because, and this is where I don't understand. I don't understand how a human being would do this. He doesn't. He is not able to cope with the idea of having this dog as a partner because he thinks the dog is ugly. I want to see there's one cop out there, and there's a lot of bad, stupid cops out there, and a lot of pieces of shit who are cops, but so low where they are given a dog as a partner, and they're in a canine unit, and they're told, they go, I can't work with that dog. It's too fucking ugly. Mind you, this dog is adorable.
No, the dog is very cute. The dog playing Tequila is very cute. They had a good dog on their hands, and I do not get the.
There's not a dog on earth that is so ugly you would say, I don't want to work with this dog because it's ugly.
No, they're
and everyone hates everyone else. Like, he's like, the reaction of his ex, who he goes to see later, when she sees the dog, is like, "What the fuck is that thing?" It's a fucking regular looking, nice looking dog.
Yeah.
Like, I can't understand. Like, there's so much of this universe, and sound cues and music cues in this episode are so bad. But the thing I have the most trouble wrapping my head around is the fact that there's so many people in this show whose reaction to this dog is, "What the fuck is that thing?" It's just a regular looking, nice looking dog. Generally, when people see dogs that aren't attacking them and are happy and looks and has smiley eyes, they are happy to see a dog.
Yeah.
But everyone here is like, his reaction of, "What is the fuck is with that dog? I think it's ugly."
So he gets partnered with Tequila and Garcia, played by Mariska Hargitay. Angela. And he's...
You know what Nick's name would be if Tony Danza played?
I'm guessing Tony Bonetti.
Tony Bonetti. Tony Tonetti. He'd be Tony. His middle name could also be Tony.
He'd be Tonetti Bonetti.
Tony Bonetti.
But
little New Jack Swing for you.
So they get partnered up, and he's of course not happy about it because her squad car is too clean. It's not got anything. It doesn't have any dings in it. It doesn't have some roast beef like littered around the floorboard. Like no one has like had sex in the back seat. Of course,
the dog says,
"Yeah,
yes, I have."
Of course, Tequila refutes this claim. But basically he just like, he doesn't like that things are too clean because he thinks that means she's not a good cop, basically.
He doesn't like insert everything.
Yes. He's just like, he hates everything, and he thinks that, he knows all and that everyone should listen to him. So they end up getting called to a crime scene, pretty much immediately. And it looks like it's a suicide, and it just so happens to be the woman's house, who he saw earlier in the fender bender. He sees the car with the Rich Dish license plate on it, and knows that like, oh, it's definitely the same person, which is a weird coincidence, and finds out that this person is hanging from their sort of their second floor. They left a note, and he immediately thinks that it's murder. He does not think that it is a suicide, and we find out later that Tequila agrees that it is. But this is the tonal thing here where they like kind of whip wildly from tone to tone. They come in, it's this very self-serious thing.
It's literally, we see the bare legs.
Yes, hanging
above their...
Yes, they're hanging from the top of the frame. And then Garcia comes in and is like, "Well, where's the body?" And he flips on the dime and goes, "Hanging around." And you're just and like, fuck then you.
Yeah, and like the dog is going on. The dog, when it walks in, is like going on about like, "There's a dog with any heat in here, and I would like to fuck it," and blah blah blah.
Yes.
And he like sees the body. He's like, "Oh," and it's like, there's a dead, like, you don't see hung bodies on TV like this. Mm-hmm. It's just like the entire scene has the legs dangling and swinging back and forth.
Yeah,
and then he's like, "Oh, you gained some points, Garcia, because you didn't scream when you saw the body." But yeah, but like, she also didn't make fucking jokes about it. And then like, it turns out that he won the car. Her car is the Rich Dish car.
Yeah.
So he immediately, thanks to being in one of the largest metro areas in the world, has run into the two people who were at his first crime. Diagnoses the entire crime.
Yeah. He knows immediately that this guy must have hit her on purpose, went back to their place, had sex, then killed her, and then
Bada
wrote
bing.
a note. And he like figured it out immediately.
And like, he just says it all. Like he doesn't explain that he saw them in traffic either. He just keeps telling them like, "Here's what happened," and they're like, it's like, "Are you fucking from early edition? Did you read in the paper early?"
It takes them a while to ask him how he knows, and he was like, "Well, because I saw them." And you're like, you could have led with that. You could have said, "Oh shit, I saw this car get into a fender bender earlier today."
It takes Dr. Midnight from DC Comics to come in and say like, "That's great. How do you know that?" And then they have Angela go, "Yeah, I meant to ask that." It's like
Yeah.
you drove all the way back together. Like time passes.
Well,
You had-
that's the great thing about television in this era, where you would just like pose a question and then immediately stop existing until you got to your next location, where you would then answer the question.
It's like how, speaking of Terry Funk wrestling, their lives stopped existing between Mondays.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't talk to you the 6 other days of the week.
So we find out that Bonetti puts out his theory of what he thinks happened. So they're going to try to track down.
It's dumb. It's the dumbest fucking crime idea ever, and the solution is even dumber.
Yes, they're going to track down the guy who bumped into her to try to question him. All of that stuff that happens off camera. We do not see it happen. We do not get involved. It's like not even a normal like kind of procedural sort of cop show where they like actually interview the person or interrogate them. We don't even see that happen. We find out later that he was picked up, had an alibi, and then that's it. They drop it. So anyway, we find out that he is, while he's in LA, he's going to stay with his ex-wife, which seems like it could be a difficult thing. Some couples dissolve and they have mutual kind of agreements and it's amicable. And they can remain friends, but it seems like maybe that is not necessarily the case.
No,
here.
he was married to one of Joey from Friends' sisters. But like, also we have like, this is where we have Angela tell him that she has a son. And
No, she has a daughter.
A daughter.
Yeah,
and she was married, and she is now a widow. And
Yes.
he's like, "Huh, I didn't give any thought to you whatsoever, other than you were young."
yes,
It's like you look basically like by like 1992. Mind you, she looks like a baby compared to like who she looks she has looked basically the same for many years.
yeah,
Because she's in generally dressed so softly in this episode in a way that you don't really ever see her.
yeah.
She looks like she's 19. But like he's like, "Oh, and it also in a way of like, oh, you've been touched."
Yeah.
Like, sort of way. Like he's almost disappointed to find out she was married, because he eventually would show her the best sex of her life.
Yeah. We do find out that we find out that like they still have kind of a bit of some sexual chemistry still about this, this relationship that they had. And so he goes to her place, brings the dog in, brings her flowers, but she's very salty. He reminisces about all the hookups they had in their nooners, he calls them, in New York. And she's like, finally, after kind of like being a little standoffish, she finally goes into the room and takes her shirt off and is like, "Well, we got to just do it so we can talk." And he's like, "You only want to talk you only want to do it so we can talk?" And then he's like, "Fine by me." And then the dog wants to watch them have sex, which is interesting.
The dog is really always very actively trying to think about and talk about how it wants to have sex with poodles.
Yes.
But it also is very excited anytime a human woman gets into a state of undress.
Yes, that is also yeah, definitely true. He because early on when Tequila steals Terry Funk's burrito, he runs by some women who are scantily clad in the police station and is like, "What's up, ladies?" So like he is an equal opportunity horn dog.
They just made him a little less horny for poodles.
Yeah.
You really could make it so that he was the reincarnated soul of a really horny former cop.
Oh man, wouldn't that have been great that he was a former cop who got turned into a dog by a witch or something?
By a witch, or
like Love on a Leash?
That sounds stupid.
Love with a badge.
Love with a badge. All this great stuff. still not that, like, the tone for this show, so stupid, would not have been out of place. They would just had, like, they would have just changed the music cue to either something melodramatic about his death, or when he talked about being a horny dog now, they start the bass drop. There is so much bass to tell you when the tone has changed. Like, it is like one of those scenes is coming up next, and it is the craziest fucking thing. So I have to read this straight from the fucking Wikipedia.
Oh, okay.
Right, because it's like when I read this, I thought that sounds weird. That would be crazy.
Yeah,
and it is, because it happens twice in this episode right here.
It is crazy,
and it happens during the credits, the end credits. And I quote: "Each episode has a montage during which Bonetti plays piano, and viewers see odd, sometimes disturbing scenes featuring Bonetti's neighbors and co-workers. Some of these scenes are from later episodes, while others remain unexplained. Each montage ends with Bonetti's memory of shooting the girl in New York." So we come back, and he thinks he's in fucking Red Rocks, right? He's playing a John Tesh song, like going hard as steel on this song. X walks in, she stares off into space, thinking about John Tesh, thinking about the NBA playoffs. It's showtime. It's just going hard, not a song of lament. It is basically do 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 do, like, and he's got his wife pleaser shirt on, and like it's just going hard. And then he thinks, and we see some montages, and then we goes black and white again. We see the dead girl he shot.
Yes.
And like music changes, and then for, I don't know, I'll round it up to the nearest 10 minutes that we see for 10 minutes, him hard sobbing. Like, not like putting his hand in his head, a little tear comes down, or a little bit of weeping. Full body heaves, crying in her arms.
Yeah.
Like, full body like if I do more than that, my wife is gonna come in here scared that I'm actually crying. Like you just found out your parent who you love died.
Yeah.
Like, just full grief that he killed this kid. Full. At the end of this fucking beautiful song on piano that made you jazz to be alive and made her stare off into space. And then he's just sobbing into her. And then he wakes up, and we are told there's a new girl in the apartment whom he does not know. She is blonde. She is an artist. She's Californian. She's allowed to stay there because she's allowed to create there. And his ex, who he has sobbed into her chest, how deeply sad it is gone to Europe to dance at ZZ Top's world tour while we hear fucking bass music tell you why that is so funny. What happened here, Josh? Who wrote this? How did someone so competent?
Donald Belisario, man.
How,
like
how was there 7 scripts they threw into one thing? What happened?
Yes, I think maybe. I think that it was clearly it's a thing where, like, they were trying to do too much in
this episode is so too much. It's unbelievable.
It is one of the funniest, like, it's one of the funniest things
when he was crying.
Yes, like, it shouldn't be funny, but it is super funny to see. He just had sex with his ex-wife. Now he's playing the piano, and in the background you see her and the dog watching him with, like, lovingly as he tinkles away on the ivories. And then you get the flashes to him killing this child. And then he's immediately sobbing, uncontrollably. And you're like, what a weird tonal shift. And I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to show you that he's this, like, kind of hard ass shell. And then, like, but he's obviously been very affected by this. And they kind of allude to it a little bit later in another scene that is very funny. And we could go ahead and talk about it, but, like,
yeah, it's like, to me, it is somebody who has the right idea, the right kernel of an idea, but around that idea is a ball of electricity and they cannot reach it. They have no idea how to get there. They can see it. It is see-through. But like they have a shock collar on and they cannot touch it. And every time they try to, they create something unbelievably tonally deaf that is fucking hilarious, but not in the way they mean it to be. And I've never, like I said, like this is not the most incompetently made thing we've ever saw, because we've seen everything.
Yeah.
We've covered the worst things on earth. I won't say it's the worst show I've ever seen.
No.
It is just, but it is so baffling. Like, we've had shows like with Nightmare Cafe where I'm like, how did this make TV? Because it's boring.
Yeah.
This show is not boring.
No.
How did this make TV, network TV, CBS in 1992? How did it make TV when any viewing of it would go, no, you guys got it wrong.
Yeah.
Go back and fix it before you put it on TV.
I don't know. So we should talk about the next very funny scene, which shouldn't be funny, but is because of the correlation. So
it's the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen in a TV show.
Yeah, so they're having lunch. This is right, kind of getting close to the end too, but they're having lunch together. They're having pizza, which of course is not the pizza that Bonetti
it's California Pizza Kitchen, basically.
Yes, it's got avocado on it. It's got sprouts. It's got other things, and he's like he's like, oh, it's got to have anchovies. He's very like overdoing it.
There's no gay panic in this episode, which is shocking.
No, there isn't. I mean, this also was only one episode, so there's very possible that this does happen.
Oh, I'm sure there's
on.
chance. I would have thought they would have wanted that right away.
So anyway, he is talking about this, and then she reveals that her husband was actually killed in the line of duty by a 13-year-old. So like the yin and yang of him, he killed a kid killed her husband. Yeah, and I'm certain that they were setting them up to be a couple later on in the episode. I mean, the series. I'm assuming, but maybe I'm wrong. But
for like 100, there's zero chance. I'm sure he has very surface relationships with the artists who in the credit montage is doing something naked in the shower.
Yeah, it's a will they won't they for her. I think, like, for sure. It feels like they definitely had some, but
But this idea that to balance them,
yeah,
they had to have, he killed a 12-year-old, a 13-year-old killed her husband, and she has to say like, if it was me, I wouldn't worry about pulling the trigger.
Yeah, well, she basically is like, he's like, if he's like, do you ever think about what could have happened to him if he had killed that kid? Because, I know a guy who did kill a kid and he had a hard time using his gun and it really messed him up inside. And she's like, well, I'd much rather have my husband alive. So I'd be okay if that kid died.
It is no one, to coin a phrase, take a phrase that is completely unnecessary. No one put a gun to a 13-year-old's head while writing this show and told them that they had to have her husband killed by a kid. So then you take that out, they don't have to have this conversation.
Like, he could have been killed in the line of duty, but like it didn't need to be by a 13-year-old.
And then to have this, like, the idea seems to be that he's right.
Yeah. I mean, he is technically
he's right. But
at
the same time, she's also right. That she's like, I could still have my husband here if he just killed that kid. And it's like, maybe just don't write that so her husband and her don't have to fantasize about killing a 13-year-old.
Like, what if did he have to be killed in the line of duty? Could he have not just been in like a bad car accident by a drunk driver? Could he be
trying to say he was the cop who was partnered with the dog first? Maybe he was saving the dog and he died.
Yeah, maybe.
And then the dog spirit went in the dog. The spirit went into the dog.
That's the story.
And he's Nico's partner, but he's the former lover of Angela.
He has to watch
he's
over
the boss. And he's played by Tony Danza.
Oh.
And the dog is named Tony.
There you go.
And the show is called Tony and Bonetti.
You remember Tila Tequila? It's Tony Tequila, her brother.
But this is set up that he is afraid to pull the trigger.
Yes.
Because the inciting incident of the entire series, that in theory, if your show is created by Donald P. Belisario, will run at least 4 successful seasons on CBS, right? Because you made Magnum fucking PR.
Yeah, he's got like 4 or 5 shows that he created that have all like cracked more than multiple hundreds of episodes.
Like right now, he should be remaking Tequila and Bonetti for Hulu with modern stars. Like everything, like all his other shows have come back, though I have never seen a minute of it, nor ever heard another human being talking about it.
Oh yeah, that's right. Magnum and Quantum Leap both came back, and Hawaii Five-0. So he's got 3 shows that got remade.
Do you know anyone who has ever watched a minute of Magnum PI's remake? Whatever. I'm sure they exist because statistically they do exist.
Yeah.
But because the central idea is this is a cop who talks tough but is damaged. He plays the piano and then he deep sobs in a way that no leading man ever does on TV. No one is this vulnerable at this point. But he's got this hard shell, but he can't pull the trigger because he killed this girl. We keep seeing her death in black and white in just jarring tonal shifts. He can't pull the trigger in the moment. But guess what he does in this episode? He gets over it. In the first episode, he shoots the guy who actually killed the girl.
Yeah. He
They don't talk to him. He doesn't show proof that he did it. He just shoots him and he's dead and he walks away.
Yeah, it's fun. So I mean, that is basically the ending. So basically the guy who was an asshole to him on the freeway is actually the guy who was responsible for murdering the woman. Basically, when this is all conjecture because we do not get confirmation of this at all, but Bonetti's theory is that he saw the fender bender just like he did. He saw the connection between these two people and he decided, oh, I'm going to go get me a piece of action too. So that after the other guy left, after Lester left, he went to her house, tried to get some action. She rejected him, so he killed her. So that is his theory. And we assume that is what happened because Bonetti chases the guy. They finally, so basically Tequila gets a sense of something and realizes, oh, the poodle that I smelled, that is a clue. So he runs off and through a series of talking with a whimpering dog, he finds out they need to go to the docks. There is a funny bit where Garcia says, the last time Tequila ran off like this, he led us straight to the bra, garter belt, and high heel bandit. And so I want to know that story, and I would love to see that in a flashback. Maybe the high heel bandit returns. But they go to the docks, and they end up there. They find the car because I guess Bonetti has like a penchant for remembering license plates.
All cops do.
Yeah.
Except for like he gets mad when she doesn't have that ability. And also I think he gets his phonetical alphabet is just garbage. I don't believe it's anything.
Yeah, it's nonsense. But
as somebody who had to use that in a sales support job for decades where I don't know if you know this, but a lot of letters, if you just hear them over a phone without visual cue, sound exactly the same.
Oh yes.
F, S, T, just impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible to tell. So you had to use it a lot. He just throws out whatever the fuck he wants.
Boy, spaghetti. Fire truck.
Calabrese.
So anyway, he goes up to this guy's car. The guy comes out thinking that he's someone else, just talking about random stuff that we have no context for. And he recognizes the pink Cadillac. And then Bonetti shows this guy who I don't even think we get a name for.
I don't even get a clear look at him.
No, and he shows him his shield. The guy freaks out and runs. So they
he says if he's innocent, he won't run when I show him my badge.
Yes, and so we know
that holds up in court.
He's guilty of something. So he chases him onto a ship to try to get away. The guy throws this poodle that he's carrying, the one that Tequila has been smelling, that's been in heat the whole time. He throws it into the water. Tequila goes in after the dog. Bonetti follows the guy onto the ship, and he tries to shoot him at first, but he can't because he's still having these flashbacks. And then less than a minute later, the guy tries to shoot him, and he shoots him to death with no problems whatsoever. Everything. He had
trouble shooting a lock earlier.
Yeah,
his hand was shaking shooting a lock.
And
he just murdered some dude.
Yeah, he kills this guy. He's regained his ability to kill. He's had some character growth, which is great.
In episode 1, he got over what should have been at least a 5-episode arc.
Well, I think that he will still. I think that if this were a modern day thing, then yes, he would have that issue up through like probably the entire season 1, and then at the end he would kill someone and it'd be like,
I'm sure,
you
like,
got your ability back.
I'm sure back then the idea was like, by episode 3, we want this to be a show that has really no premise other than you're happy to hang out with these characters.
The dog talks, and that's the premise.
That's the premise. Like everything else, all his trauma and stuff, we'll talk about it now and then, but it really isn't a big deal. The dog talks, and he's Italian.
Yeah.
And like you want these two to get together. That'll be the whole show. Will they or not will they? Will Tony get together with Angela? We'll figure it out. But this is dumb. This is unbelievable. Like, and then the other cop comes up, and by her standard, she doesn't even know who he saw or what he saw or what happened. And she's like, "Did you find the guy?" And he's like, "He's dead. I killed him. Crime closed. Look, the dogs are in the water. They're having sex." That's it.
Yeah. Like, he seems very casual about it because they're like, look, the dog. There they are. And she's like, "Oh, Tequila's helping the poodle." And he's like, "I don't think he's helping her." And the
second thing in this episode that comes straight from a fucking Simpsons episode. One,
oh yeah,
Dr. Midnight keeps talking about Mendoza.
This is a year after the McBain joke in The Simpsons too.
Yes. And then 2, Santa's little helper is trying to jump over her, but just can't make it.
So the ending of the episode is Bonetti giving Tequila a bath, but of course Tequila runs off and scrambles around with soap everywhere, and they're slipping and sliding all over the floor, and it's a freeze frame on the closing shot of Bonetti going "Tequila" as he slides into the camera.
Also, Angela has the poodle.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's her dog now.
That might be another character going forward in the series. We'll have to check and see.
I didn't see voice of the poodle.
No, I don't think any other dogs talk. I think this is really one of those situations.
Welker must be fucking furious.
And then the credits, we get what you already mentioned, him playing the piano again from earlier in the episode, but we are seeing we're seeing the other characters, but not from this episode. We see Charles Rocket's captain character getting like with a woman with his shirt off. We see Angela reading to her kid. It's weird. We see the artist woman who's living in his apartment showering and like dancing around in the shower, and then like we see a shot of Tequila, and then the episode ends. So it's a strange choice.
Strange choice. And like if it was a single time where they're like, this is a new series and these are things that you're gonna see in the future, like seeing like, at the very end of the first episode of the Great British Bake Off or baking show, that no one calls it that, and like they show like in the next few weeks, and they show you way too much, where you can pretty much pick out people who aren't showing up nearly that often, so they're going to be eliminated early. That'd be one thing, but they do this every episode apparently.
Apparently.
And some of the scenes never show up. So that Charles Rocket scene may never happen.
Yeah, may never be in the thing. Did you know? I'm looking. I have a couple things to reveal to you. I was briefly looking through Jack Scalia's biography. Apparently, he was a pitcher for the Montreal Expos.
Most of us were.
He had a 3-year pro career, but he got injured. Then he modeled for Armani. Then
I could see that.
Then he was the Jordache jeans man in the late 70s. And then he transitioned into acting in the early 80s. And did a bunch of stuff, but I was like, oh, cool. He was, he was doing some interesting
famously
stuff.
Handsome.
There's a couple of other shows of his that I would love to cover at some point in time.
I think I know which one you're going to say, but say it.
Well, Point Man.
Yes, I know you want Point Man.
Yeah, Connie Harper is living the good life as the owner of Spanish Pete's, a beach resort. Occasionally, his services as bodyguard are called upon by people who have nowhere else to turn.
I bet he plays an Italian guy in that.
22 episodes. There's one where apparently he goes undercover as a priest.
An Italian priest.
Which I am very interested in seeing. He also starred in a show from 1989 to 1990 called Wolf. Only ran for 11 episodes. Tony Wolf, a San Francisco cop, is
that's fantastic. His name is Tony Wolf.
Is framed on drug charges by the criminals he has been pursuing. Thrown off the force, he gets a job as a private detective working for the attorney Dylan Elliott, who led the fight to have him thrown off the force. Dylan came to believe that Tony had been framed and attempts to help him prove his innocence. Tony lives with his father, Sal, on a boat that always needs repairs and spends most of his time with his girlfriend.
That's very Nightman.
That's pretty great. So I definitely would love to see Wolf and Point Man.
My only problem with covering Wolf, my one problem, is that since his character is already named Tony,
yes,
I cannot make a joke.
That's right.
What do you be called?
He's also in a show. Man, we might just have to do a spinoff about Jack Scalia, because he's also in a show called
Nuts movie.
He's also in a show called Hollywood Beat. It's also a crime drama show. Nick McCarran and Jack Rado work far from the glamorous area of Los Angeles, donning oddball outfits, working undercover. The headquarters in the seedy area is a business run by George Grinsky, and they report to Captain Wes Biddle. That's the synopsis of the show.
If we were doing the Jack Scalia show, can I read you the plot for T-Force? Movie from 19.
Is this a movie? This is our show.
This is a movie from 1994. Okay, it's a terrorist group led by Sam Washington, good name, seizes the British embassy in downtown Los Angeles. He loves LA. Killing hostages, but all seems lost. But the T-Force, the world's first fully cybernetic law enforcement team, is deployed, and within minutes, more than 30 terrorists are dead. One member of the T-Force is destroyed. Upon learning this, Adam, one of the members of T-Force, goes too far and shoots a disarmed and surrendering female terrorist. Hopefully she's 12. He then destroys a terrorist helicopter with 6 hostages on board, including the UN ambassador. Wow. Who was played by Clement von Frankenstein. I'm not making that. With a grenade launcher.
Wow.
Mayor Pendleton and Chief Richmond of the LAPD decided to shut down the program to disassemble the cybernauts, despite the protests from the cybernauts' chief scientist, Dr. John Grant.
Good news. T-Force is on YouTube. Available. Uploaded 3 years ago. I will be saving that for later.
Man, I can't fucking get past the fact there's a guy named Frankenstein in this fucking show.
And that's his actual name. Okay. He is I have one more interesting thing to tell you about Jack Scalia's career. And I don't know a ton about it because doesn't appear to be a whole lot of information on this one. But apparently, at least according to IMDb, and there's quite a few episodes listed, more than the original run. But apparently there was a soft reboot spinoff of Tequila and Bonetti where Bonetti goes to Rome and finds a new tequila dog.
No.
Yes, in this soft reboot of Tequila and Bonetti, a tough Italian-American cop arrives through an international police exchange program in Rome, Italy, where he has teamed up with his new partner, a sentient local police dog with a cool attitude.
Wow, why would you try this again?
2000 is when that came out.
Why would you try it again?
And I don't know if it is in continuity with the original. Because, so Tequila is one of the most experienced employees of a police department in Rome, Italy. He knows the city, loves the city, and he'd never be able to work anywhere else but in Rome. However, he happens to be a police dog, and his biggest problem in life is he's not get to make decisions for himself. When his human partner gets transferred to New York Police Department through an international police exchange program, a new partner is sent to Tequila from America in return, a tough Italian-American detective who knows nothing about Rome called Nick Bonetti. So I wonder if he gets sent there because he also killed a kid, or if this is the same continuity and he went back to New York at some point, or because it mentions there's a review that says, I've seen every episode and I liked when Detective Bonetti played the piano. So I don't know if this is just a remake or if it is in the same continuity or if it's like this says, this person's review says it's awful but strangely addictive. There's an American detective who speaks English throughout the series. Everyone else is Italian and has their dialogue dubbed into English.
We have to watch this as well.
One especially terrible episode features Bonetti having to dress in drag so that he can infiltrate a gay club to investigate some kind of crime.
We will not be watching that episode.
Truly appalling, but as I said, strangely addictive.
Incredible. That's why would you take two shots at this?
I don't know.
So long apart.
And everybody else in the show is an Italian actor. There's no other Americans. Nobody else from the show is in it. So they're all Italian.
It's like Hercules.
It's so bizarre. And the last little detour I want to make before we rate this, I know we're going a little long, but the episode, this episode was directed by Michael Zinberg, who is he's got a long list of directorial credits, a ton of different shows, definitely ones you've heard of. He directed an episode of Fringe, an episode of Lost, Psych, The Practice, Law and Order, everything that you could think of, JAG, all these shows that have been around for a very long time. He directed episodes of Taxi and Newhart and, WKRP in Cincinnati, definitely things that we have. He even directed the episode that we covered, Turkeys Away, a couple of years ago. But he's also directed a ton of shows that I actually think we would want to cover. So I have a list of some that I think would be very, very interesting to put on a list as possibilities. And some of them are cop shows, of course. The one that jumped out to me the most immediately, 61 episodes of this show, ran from 88 to 91, called Midnight Caller. An ex-cop hosts a late-night talk radio program while getting involved with his listeners' problems in his off time.
I mean, I don't have that much free time. How do people do this?
Stars Gary Cole as Jack Nighthawk Killian.
I do like that name. I like that name a lot.
Great names in this show, too. Like Michael T. Williamson, who played Bubba in Forrest Gump. That's probably his biggest credit. He plays Deacon Bridges. You got a Devin King, Carl Zymak, Nicky Malloy, Father Joe DiMaggio.
Played by Joe DiMaggio.
I wish. Chesley Brandt. But anyway, great sounding show. I don't know if it's available, but Midnight Caller sounds awesome. Again, ran for 61 episodes, a show that I have never heard of. And has a 7.7 out of 10 on IMDb.
So it has to be good.
Another one ran for 42 episodes, never heard of the show, called Hooperman. San Francisco cop Harry Hooperman inherits a rundown apartment building. Not having the time to maintain the building, Hooperman hires Susan as the person in charge. They begin a relationship. Starring John Ritter, created by Stephen Bochco, the guy who did NYPD Blue, I think. I never heard of this show, but it ran for 42 episodes over multiple years. This one, a little bit less, 10 episodes, called Legwork. The life and cases of a female ex-prosecutor turned private detective.
That sounds like
Sue Thomas, FBI
is important to the plot.
Yeah, her legs are definitely important to the plot. In the show poster, it's her in a car with the door open and her legs exposed. So
I mean, a lot of posters for a number of decades, the legs on the poster were part of the plot.
Yeah, Frances McDormand is in that show for all 10 episodes, but she's not the lead character, but she looks like she's probably like a best friend or something. We've also got a show called that he directed, only 4 episodes of this now, from 1986, Fathers and Sons. It's a comedy. Former football player Merlin Olsen stars as Buddy Landau, just an ordinary guy who loves sports and coaches his son Lanny's baseball team. Lanny has no real talent for the sport and is only involved to please his dad. That's a show.
You can make a show about anything.
In the 80s, you absolutely could make a show about anything at all.
Mostly, if you had a show about helicopters, though.
We've got, let's see, I think those were probably the best of the bunch that this guy, that Michael Zinberg, has directed. And I would cover all of them. Like, they all sound good. Oh, and there's also Duet, which also ran for 54 episodes. It's love at first sight when mystery writer Ben Coleman meets caterer Laura Kelly. The ups and downs of their romance form the basis of the series.
Not bad. He directed an episode of Evil.
Oh yeah,
which we've covered on this show.
Yeah, he's done a lot. He's still working. He's NCIS, Good Fight, Young Sheldon. He's been around. He's done a lot, and
I forgot the Michael J. Fox show existed.
Yeah,
for a span of 2 months.
Oh, there's one more that he directed an episode of. It's called Good Behavior, good with an E. Ran for 1 season, 22 episodes. Stars Sherman Hemsley. A man is released on parole under one condition. He must stay under house arrest in care of his son, who hadn't spoken to him in years. The son is not too crazy about this idea at all, and the son's shocked wife and teen daughter even less so.
Even less? No one's happy.
And then he also directed an episode of the Cheers spinoff, The Tortellis.
Yes, the one that everyone remembers.
Yeah, I did not know that was a Cheers spinoff. I mean, I like Dan Hedaya, so it might be fun for that alone, but man, oh man, some wild shows out there that we've barely scratched the surface of.
We have endless amounts of content we could grab from. You could never run out of shows that no one remembers.
Yeah, that's the kind of beauty of this, is that there's just things that are just out there in the world, and a beautiful human being has uploaded what looks to be about 37 episodes or so. Oh, nope, about 20 something of Midnight Caller. So
that is definitely going on the list.
Yeah.
Speaking of,
oh my God, season 1, episode 1 is called Conversations with an Assassin.
That's a good name. It's better than several show episode names that we have recently been looking at and deciding not to cover for Laverne and Shirley.
Oh yes, yeah, that's very true. All right, so we've gone long, but I had to talk about these random shows, and Midnight Caller's available, so we're absolutely covering it. But we got to rate this bad boy on our scale of weirdness. I don't think this will be
9. What the fuck is this show?
Fair.
Why are they made twice?
I don't know. That I think that ratchets up the rating for me to probably a 9 as well, because it is bizarre.
We covered a robot cop show from the 70s
Yeah.
that was more realistic than the show.
Such a bizarre program, such a weird tone, such a bizarre tonal shift in the middle of the show. Like
The piano scene alone
Yeah.
is 8.5 of the 9.
it's worth watching the first episode just to like see how insane all the tonal shifts are. So like I can't recommend watching the show enough just for how bizarre it is. And like just as you watch it, think about like what were they like, what was the plan here? What were they thinking with this? Like, why did they think that this was a good idea?
Just so many choices, and it feels like they made the wrong one over. And like wherever the path branched, they took the wrong road. Every
for sure.
time.
Yeah.
And speaking of taking the wrong branch, if you ever do want to run out on the internet and go to Jack Scalia Patriot.blogspot.com,
Oh, no.
you can absolutely see pictures of somebody has uploaded from 2016 to 2018 of Jack Scalia with, say, Ben Carson or General Kelly or the Trump family or whatever else. He is very heavily into the military, and that has sloped him into he likes the Republicans because that's their brand.
Yeah, I see a post here sending salutations from President Trump in Phoenix, Arizona. He was on the bill at the Western Conservative Conference.
Still not the worst conservative Scalia.
Very true. But man, that sucks. I mean, I didn't necessarily like the guy, but it always sucks when you find out that they're like, probably pieces of shit in real life. Yeah. But that doesn't mean we won't be covering another episode of Tequila and Bonetti.
But which country's version will we be covering?
It remains to be seen. But until next time, I've been Josh.
I've been Skinner.
We want you to keep it weird and also try not to kill any 12-year-olds.
Try not to, but unless they're 13-year-olds, and then they better get them.
That's right. You. That's the cutoff. You're a teenager now. You can be killed. You've been listening to Center of Weirdness. If you like the show, rate and review us wherever you find us, but especially on Apple Podcasts. You can listen to every episode at centerofweird.com, where you can also find all the old Predictocast episodes. And if you want to get in touch with us to tell us about a show we should cover, hit us up on Instagram or Threads at Weirdness Podcast. And as always, thanks for listening.